Hey everyone, I'd like to read something from Answers in Genesis. Quote, science won't convince, science won't save. What is more important is for people to realize that they already have a source of truth that they trust for their presuppositions. And for some, it's the wrong source. We want others to see that there's no better source than the eyewitness account of the creator of the universe. Well, I have some questions. One, who are these eyewitnesses? Two, how do you know that they're eyewitnesses? And three, what is it that science is supposed to save us from? If you can defend this, then please call because the show is starting right now. Hello, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of Truth Wanted. This is the live call-in show that happens every single week, Fridays at 7 p.m. Central Time. We talk to people about what they believe and why. And if you'd like to call us, you sure can do that. The number is 512-991-9242, or you can call through your computer at tiny.cc/calltw. And as always, Truth Wanted is a product of the Atheist Community of Austin, a 501c3 nonprofit organization dedicated to the promotion of atheism, critical thinking, secular humanism, and the separation of religion and government. Woo! I am Objectively Dan, and joining me today is Jmike. Woo! Jmike, what's going on?
I'm busting into a rap.
We're busting rhymes, busting heads, busting rhymes today.
It's
good.
My boy. I'm a little sick, but I'm getting better. So apologies if I sound muffled or if I like go off camera to cough for a minute. But I'm getting over everything and I'm good. So I'm doing better.
What's really cool is that somebody decided to pull out a weed whacker right now, and I'm not sure if that's getting picked up right now, but it might in a second. So that'll be some fun audio noises in the background. Very cool. Very cool. Thank you, Austin, Texas, for doing your weeds at 7 o'clock on a Friday night. Well, with that introduction out of the way, I think, Jmike, we should talk about last week's We Want the Truth segment, because every single week we're asking you guys a question or a prompt that we want you to complete in the comment section below. And last week we asked you, complete the sentence, the hardest part about being a ghost is blank. And here are our favorite answers. Number 3 comes from Kelly Laughlin, who says, the hardest part of being a ghost isn't in your pants. And that's just like, that's a Kelly joke right there. That's a Kelly original. Kelly, we love you.
That's awesome.
Thanks for the submission. Thanks for the submission. Good. That's like, it's like dad joke, but plus, because it's a little naughty. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So thank you, Kelly. Thank you for the contribution. Number 2 comes from 5 Ways Bath, who says, the hardest part about being a ghost is dealing with the spontaneous res erection. So we have 2 jokes about genitalia in this, three comment lineup, which is pretty impressive, right? Not gonna lie. Let's see if we can make it a 3-person streak. We have number 1 comes from Leith Crother, who says, the hardest part about being a ghost is watching my family go through my browsing history. And that's like kind of tangentially related to areas underneath the belt. So, I'm going to count that one, I think. So congratulations, internet. Your mind is always in the gutter, including for our prompts every week. So thanks for that. And thank you to everybody who commented last week for your suggestions, even if they didn't get read. We appreciate it. So Jmike, we have a very, very good We Want the Truth segment this week. And it is, what does the J in Jmike really stand for? Now, I really like this prompt. 1, because I came up with it. And 2, I think you've told me before, but I've forgotten. I think I've forgotten every time.
I don't want anyone to know. It's just it'll be like my own thing that I get to keep.
I think it's Jabroni Mike is my guess. Or
that's what I tell people. I say Jabroni Mike.
Jabroni Mike. I knew
Dwayne, The Rock, and he honored me with Jabroni Mike, and it's snowballed from there. Just legend after that.
I like that. Like there's like an alternate history or alternate universe where you are a professional wrestler, or you had a history in professional wrestling and maybe some sort of injury stopped you from the game, and now you do like call-in shows and stuff on the side. That'd be
I love that backstory because I grew up in so much wrestling as a kid. I still enjoy going back watching old stuff. So a mark, quote unquote. it's cool. Atheists can like fake things too, right? It's perfectly okay. It's
that's a hot take
to do. Yeah, so
that's a hot take.
Yeah.
So I like Jabroni Mike. I also like Jimothy, because I want to know if there is a Jimothy out there in the world, and if there is, I'd like to shake his hand or her hand or their hand, whatever their pronouns are. But like Jimothy is a cool name, and I'm going to imagine that that's your real name now, Jmike. So
sure, I like it. I'm excited to see what people put.
I want to see
for this question. This is entertaining for me. I like it, and it doesn't feel like self-centered because I didn't do it. That. So it's like I get to watch it. It's great.
I was worried that you wouldn't like it because it is calling attention to yourself in a way. Everyone still thinks like 2 years later, 3 years later, subjectively Dawn is like the funniest thing they could.
I still think that's hilarious.
It's still happening. So.
I was like literally crying laughing when that whole thing was taking place on the show. So
to get Johnny back, I've always said that every time I host a show with Johnny, I don't know if people have noticed this, but I always say Johnny P Angel, and then I say what the P stands for, but it stands for something different every time.
Oh yeah.
So I think last time I said Johnny Pockabell Angel, which is one I really like, but I got to come up with more P names. So anyway, comment below. What's Jmike's? What's the J in Jmike? Is it Jezebel? Jericho? There's a lot of things you can do with that. So anyway, this is Jmike. You and I have known each other for how long has it been? 3 years now? 4 years now? It's been a little bit. My friend.
I met you on a different channel. We had a conversation. I don't know. We call it an interview or just
you interviewed me on a channel that you were on, and then like a week or two later, you were on Truth Wanted, and that was your first Atheist Community of Austin appearance. And now you're a bona fide host, Jmike. You're hosting. What are you hosted these days? You're on Atheist Experience. You were on Talk Heathen.
Did nonprofits. And then and Truth Wanted.
Who is Jmike? Jmike, who is Jmike?
That's putting me on the spot. I'm still trying to figure. I think I'm still.
Well, this is like a show. I don't know if you remember last time you were here. This is an interview show.
Yeah,
I mean, that part of it is the interview. So that's.
I'm a pretty. I mean, I don't really like. Again, I'm trying to still figure a lot of the stuff out. I think like a lot of people, but I mean, the things that I think like define me in a lot of ways is, I played music for a long time, and so played guitar for 15 years and drums, things like that, like philosophy and reading. I was a very like bad student growing up. I wasn't like good in school or anything like that, and so getting kind of out of my own beliefs, it's like I look back like a different me in a way. So that's why it's like it's not like it's new. It's because it's not new, but I went through these weird kind of up and downs of like having certain beliefs and not having the proper kind of tool set, and the Atheist Experience and all these shows really kind of helped solidify that for me. So it's still kind of applying that tool set and developing myself now, but other than the kind of things that I like to do, it's really the best I can.
You would call yourself an atheist now. What would you used to call yourself?
I initially called myself an atheist when I was younger, and then I got more into like spiritual kind of beliefs and stuff like that. And I kind of shifted into like, I call myself an agnostic atheist, but I no longer use that term. I don't use like Gnostic atheist. I just, I mean, you could describe it that way. My view is that God does not exist. That's the way that I express my view, but it's kind of went from this, I just don't believe it. I'm not convinced. Then I was convinced into a lot of other stuff that was kind of dumb, and circled back into like, I'm just not convinced. Found a lot of these shows. I found a way to kind of like, I think that's me. That's exactly what I think I am, And then once I got more into philosophy and stuff, I was just like, I'm a naturalist. So there just are no gods. I would call myself a philosophical naturalist or a
metaphysical
naturalist, or however you
metaphysical naturalist. Ooh, that's taking it a step up, Jmike. Do you believe that only natural things exist?
Yes.
Okay. What does that mean to you? What are natural things?
This is a huge thing. This is a whole debate, and because
this is why I'm going down this route, Jmike. Because you have a reputation. You're a philosophy guy, right? You you go down that path. And so now I'm bringing back the fire to you today, Jimmy.
Sure.
You know, I want to get your takes.
Yeah. So like, I mean, one way you could define it, you know, you could say, look, it's, if we had this completed science, social sciences, physics, biology, if we had a completed, exhausted science, all of those kind of entities are going to be what I'm going to say that the natural world studies. So essentially naturalism for me is going to be, it's going to be that there are nothing but natural or causal kinds, but that can become circular, right? Because you're using natural to define naturalism. And so there's this kind of huge debate in philosophy about whether or not this is a vacuous kind of notion, whether it tracks. But I don't like find this really troubling. I mean, I want to say that there's nothing but these natural causes that the sciences study. And one thing that's important to me is that I think analytic philosophy has failed miserably at defining things like knowledge, art, justice, beauty, right? All of these kind of concepts. They've never been able to find this floating definition and kind of, that's it, you know? There's always these really, you know, hard problems. We were talking before the show, physicalism and talking about and defining it. It's like, there's this, a lot of problems with language that creep in that make it so difficult for us. But I think this is easily avoidable in some sense. Two kind of examples I'll give. One, if I went around and drew like, you know, ghost or demon or angel or electron or whatever on a card, and I went and I just handed out to everybody, place this in the natural kind or the non-natural kind. What it seems like to me is that majority of those people are going to pass that test, right? A lot of people are going to pass it. You're not going to have a hard time sorting out the natural kinds from the non-natural kinds. Same with knowledge. I don't think you could ask somebody, oh, what's, you know, do you hold to a justified true belief of account of knowledge? Then you present them problems with that analysis. I don't think it follows that therefore you don't have knowledge. We struggle to define it. We clearly have knowledge in the fact that my grandmother can live longer with a science of medicine. We're clearly tracking something. And I think the same concept applies to naturalism in this case, that, I mean, it's clear that we can have these things in our head or have these experiences that we divorce from the natural. And those things I just don't agree with. So take a theist that believes all of the stuff I believe in, electrons, quarks, trees, and they have more stuff. They have demon possession, angels, all that stuff. All that stuff I think doesn't exist. And I can provide a justification on why I think that's the most reasonable position to take.
Yeah. What about stuff when we're talking about more abstract concepts? What if we're talking about mathematics, morality, you know, intentionality, like meaning? Like, are these sorts of things also fit?
You said physical, so hopefully we'll get Dan back up. So I think I understand the question. There is like a debate kind of on this as well. I'm going to keep saying, look, one thing I'll preface, like philosophers get in a room, they can't like agree that there's even 3 philosophers in the room. And so you always have these open-ended debates. It's not really settled. But someone, Graham Oppy, who I look up to a lot, he's unsure, and I am as well, that whether or not these things like Platonism are compatible with naturalism. I mean, I tend to think probably not. And that's what gives me my own philosophical anxieties, because I see arguments for, I don't see them for like substance dualism and stuff like that, but I see the arguments for emergent consciousness as like a property dualism. I get it. I get the Platonism stuff. I get it. Whether or not that stuff's compatible with naturalism or not, there's an inner debate. I mean, I'm kind of in my own navigating through a lot of that myself to just make sure I'm solid on some of my positions. So, I'd keep that open-ended. You could make an argument, Dan, that Platonism is compatible with naturalism. Graham Oppy has kind of alluded to as much. That's hard for me in some ways to accept, but yeah, I don't know. I'm still learning, so there's that whole process of a lot of my dearth of knowledge just creeps right in, and, so there's that.
I joke about, I've joked actually recently on the show where it's like, I can't go too far down the philosophical rabbit hole, because I have to make this entertaining. But I also want to be informative. Like, I also want to, I'm just taking the stuff that I read in books or in online articles, and I'm trying to transmogrify it in a nice soundbite for people so that it's as easily understood as possible. And so like what I would summarize from these anxieties that I'm hearing from you, because I have similar anxieties about how we kind of describe the world, is that if we have some of these abstract concepts, like morality, like mathematics, like there is a point where we might have to bite the bullet, or it may not even be biting the bullet, but at least say like those are physical properties and they're emergent of a physical universe, right? Like if we believe that the world is physical, and by physical I mean made up of energy, made up of matter, and that could even include things like fields and stuff, which, you know, we don't even have to go there. But the point is, right, like all of this other stuff, the conversation that you and I are having, right, like the ideas that come from it, like that also has to be physical in some way, and that's not something I can readily explain, right? At least not easily. I wouldn't know how to do that per se.
Well, then there's a lot of good, like I know a lot of people who debate in Discord and, you know, TikTok and stuff like that. We go through a lot of this stuff, and I mean, I've called myself a property dualist not that long ago, right? So I've been and that's to be distinct from substance dualist. I don't think there were souls or anything like that. It's just like kind of like emergent consciousness, like, you know, there's a non-physical emergent kind of consciousness or qualia, but there's only fundamentally the physical, right? That would be like a property dualist in a sense. So I've been on board with this. There's certain arguments. I mean, you mentioned meaning and language. There's certain things like what are called like rule following considerations that Wittgenstein kind of teases out about meaning of language, that some people I know have kind of raised that bar. Instead of making it an epistemic kind of concern on what we know, it's like an ontological concern about, I mean, is physicalism compatible with like these intentional states that where you have these normative states? Like, is that compatible? And I'm so sympathetic to a lot of these ideas. I don't think that they're, you know, should just be dismissed out of hand. They should be taken seriously. But I also just, in all of these positions, I find problems. And we were talking about this at the beginning. He's like, you know, I call myself, you know, this, but I find some problems. Me too. But I look at all the positions and I'm like, there's so many problems here. And a lot of that to me is like, you know, I think Wittgenstein even points out language games, a lot of stuff that our language takes a hold of. And we really anchor ourselves to how we use terms and concepts that just might be totally fucking wrong, you know? So,
yeah. Maybe anti-philosophy is the most rational point of view, right? This idea that like maybe philosophy will bring us to the point where we realize philosophy actually doesn't actually get us anywhere.
That would be doing philosophy,
right? But that's
my favorites though are people who are like philosophy is useless, and I'm like, well, when you say that, that's a philosophical analysis.
It is,
right?
It is.
So it's kind of like a performative contradiction.
But also, if you say metaphysics is useless, that's a metaphysical analysis, and that doesn't mean that's not true.
Or my favorite is you can't prove a negative. I was talking about this earlier today with somebody. When you say you can't prove a negative, one, that's just false. It's clearly false. Proof by contradiction, law of non-contradiction, you can violate it. If you hold to classical logic, you can show that thing does not exist because it violates non-contradiction.
But what about paraconsistent logic?
Well, now I was going to say we have to bracket that against paraconsistent logic, dialetheism, and all that fun stuff.
Yeah, exactly.
We have to bracket all that. You're up.
Isn't this fun?
Dan, you're too good, man. You challenge all the nice looking crannies, but when you make that statement, you can't prove a negative. If you hold to that statement, it's true. What did you just do? You can't prove a negative. That's a modal claim, something that's impossible. And you're saying that's true. You just did that then. Right. So we got to be careful. And that language does that as well. It's like it's easy to kind of miss sight of saying that, trying to defend the thing that you're actually not doing service for.
Speaking of, I'm going to bring this up once, but Wittgenstein, I tried to read Logicus Tractus or whatever, like earlier this year. Have you ever tried to actually read that book?
I've tried to read a little bit of Wittgenstein, but it's just, it's like I have to look at commentaries of people talking about certain things.
And he was just like, Wittgenstein, I'm saying his name wrong. Wittgenstein was literally just like, I'm just going to be a rich dude my whole life and also write the most amazing stuff ever. And then write the next book and say everything in my last book is bullshit. Like that's his whole career.
And you're like,
it's awesome.
But I held to this.
Like, what do you mean? You wrote this when you're like 25 years old, and I will never write anything as impressive. Like, what are you talking about? So anyway, Wittgenstein is interesting, but let's talk to some people.
Let's not bore everybody.
Let's do that. Before we do, we have a super chat that I need to read out. It is from the Blind Limey. who Blind Limey also, I didn't get to read your super chat from like 2 weeks ago now, and I need to read it. And I think I had a note on my notes I'll find it in a second here. But Blind Limey did donate again. He's $5, who said 3 philosophers walk into a bar and the barman says, "What is a joke?" And that's a good one. I like that. That's a real funny. That's a real brain tickler there. And before we keep going with the show as well, I have to thank the patron of the week, because every single week I always give a shout out to the folks from Patreon. I want to, of course, thank everybody that donates on Patreon, but we always give a shout out to one person every week. And this week's patron of the week is Maxwell Carlisle. Thank you so much, Maxwell, for that. And thank you, of course, to everybody who donates. You guys rock. Okay, let's get down to business to defeat the Huns. We got GB calling in from California. GB, you are live on Truth Wanted. What do you want to talk to us about today? Hello, GB, you are live on Truth Wanted. Can you hear us? I think we cannot hear you, GB, but I'm going to put you back in the queue. And if you are there, go ahead and talk to the crew. Just confirm, and I'll get you back on in a second. Instead, we're going to talk to Phil. Phil, who's calling in from Texas. Phil, you're live on Truth Wanted. What's going on?
You've interrupted my flow of thought. I have to tell you a goat, a horse, and a Catholic priest walk into a bar, and the bartender says, "What is this, a joke?"
That's good. I like that. I guess the theme today is just random jokes. Every caller has to have a joke. Every caller has to have a joke when they call in. So new rule. Anyway.
I love it. I wanted to talk to you about Senate Bill. I have it right here. Senate Bill 763 that would put chaplains in public schools. Do you know about this?
I read a headline, but I'll be honest, this is one. Usually I'm pretty good staying up to date on stuff so I can talk about on the show. This is one I do not know anything in detail on. So Phil, you'll have to tell me.
Yeah.
This totally got under my radar as well. Governor Greg Abbott signed this into law, or tried to sign it into law, on June 18th. And now, what the fuck is a chaplain? As I understood it, a chaplain was a person who was providing spiritual counseling for all persons of a spiritual, who had spiritual questions. Like a chaplain you find on an aircraft carrier or a prison or a spaceship. I don't know why we would need chaplains in schools.
Yeah, I guess what I think the role of a chaplain would be, and I don't know anything about chaplains. I know chaplains from
the chaplain expert.
Yeah, I'm not chaplain. When I was in the Boy Scouts, one of the positions you can be in your troop is troop chaplain. So that is a thing. So I guess I know from that. I was never chaplain, but I guess in Boy Scouts it was always to lead prayers, and it was always lead whatever religious ceremonies, because the Boy Scouts is a Christian organization. That's not always stated super clearly, but it is very Christian, and it is very overtly Christian. For my Eagle Scout ceremony, they ask you about your relationship with God and stuff in your interview process. Yeah. They asked me about what my relationship.
Who's that?
Well, I was still a Christian at the time.
Yeah.
So I was 17 when I got my Eagle Scout award, but you have to go through a board basically that kind of checks you out and sees if you're legit. And one of the questions they ask you is, do you believe in God, and what's your relationship like with that? So that's actually been challenged by some atheist Boy Scout people, but that was not my fight. Anyway, point is, right, what does a chaplain do? What is a chaplain supposed to do? I think you're right. It's supposed to, consult people in spiritual matters. Obviously, that's not going to do much for you and me. What can be replaced by that in a secular resource? A therapist, right? A school therapist that may be informed in religious traditions, right? Now, I totally understand if you're a Christian and you want to seek somebody from a Christian community for guidance. I think that's totally fair, and I think that's totally reasonable. I just don't think taxpayers should be paying that, right? I just don't think that should be going in public schools. Because are we going to have imams at schools as well? Are we going to have monks that teach us?
Please.
Go ahead, Phil.
Interrupt you. I've read through this bill 4 times, and they use the word employ, volunteer interchangeably. And it does seem to be the case that they are going to replace or could replace accredited school counselors with anybody who walks up and says, I'm a God guy. I can tell your kids. And who is making those decisions on like if I'm a Muslim or a Mormon or a Baha'i, could I come into my school and volunteer to be a counselor guy?
Yeah. It's definitely problematic.
Vague bill. It's an incredibly vague bill, and it disturbs me.
Yeah, I don't think you should be giving advice to kids in a professional setting, like in a school, unless you're credentialed in some way, right? Like, I want my teachers to have teachers' degrees or at least teacher certificates.
Yeah,
like, I want
bare minimum.
Yeah, I want my school nurses to actually like be trained like medically. I would want, if that were the case, if a chaplain or a therapist were to come on, I would want them to be have some sort of background. But if it's just like, oh, anybody can volunteer, yeah, that's pretty problematic. Because like, what if a kid's depressed and they go to a chaplain? It's like, oh, it's because you got demons in you, and we need to pray for the demons. Like, what, like that's not cool. I don't like that.
Yeah, I find this like exactly. This whole thing like kind of it bugs me in the you have like because I'm already sensitive to this in the sense that like I had a friend who came down and visited me, and someone that he knew it was in the hospital that was unfortunately they ended up passing away. And so during the like kind of last moments in the hospital when they were there, they had, I guess it was a chaplain or whatever, they had a bunch of people just kind of almost force entry trying to pray in like these people's last moments. And when I had heard about that, it was just like so sickening that I can't even like the whole concept of this, like attached to some secular, like I get it. Some people who might be part of some institution, a hospital or whatever might like, they might feel that they need that. Like I understand like I don't think that they have some ill intent, the person who would want that service or whatever. But I've just heard a lot of these stories that are used in such a negative way. That's like they're like vultures almost. And that's my fear, is this kind of vulture attitude of just kind of swooping in on people who are emotionally in this time. And I just view it like the people that pick the wrong book in the self-help aisle for, they pick the vulture's book rather than someone who's genuinely there trying to like help them. And it's a gray line that it's hard for me to see the positive at all in that based on, the kind of experiences I've heard that are tangent to that.
Yeah. Phil, what do you think?
Well, all of that is true and accurate, and I have very little to add to it. But I did want to segue to another thing. Why are there so few scholarships for skeptics and atheists and free thinkers?
It's a good question. I don't know. I guess because it's hard to already be out. It's another thing to be like, I'm going to put a bunch of money towards this thing. I mean, I know there's some and they definitely exist, but there's also just not a lot of secular groups in general. Like there's tons of Christian organizations that are willing to put money towards like scholarships. There's just not as many secular groups, that are willing to put up that kind of cash. So it is unfortunate.
I will give the ACA $1,000 tomorrow if somebody will match that grant to do a essay contest for skeptical humanist thinking.
You know what?
That tomorrow.
I like that, Phil. I'm not the guy in charge that can make that decision and say, okay, the ACA is going to match that. But if you email the show, if you do TV at atheist-community, that can be forwarded to the board of directors, and they could actually do something about that if you're interested. So that's a very cool idea.
Well, I think challenging young people to think for themselves and learn some science, and some skepticism, and I think that's a great thing. And I'm thoroughly disappointed that we haven't done this more as a community.
You're probably that's a good point. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, like we're all about material help in the world, right? Like when somebody's in need of something, we're not just going to pray for them, right? We're going to actively do something. And part of that just means money, right? Giving money to people who need it, especially for academic achievements. So yeah, I'm all for it, Phil. I think it's a great idea.
Yes, for education.
Yeah.
Yes.
100%.
Yes. These are the next generation that will save the world.
I hope so.
I
hope so. Phil, I think it's a great idea. I think, again, you should email the board about that and see if you can make something happen. No promises, obviously. And I'm not on the board, for the record. I can't tell you, yes, we can do this. But that'd be something that they would vote on if they're interested in. So, yeah, it's very cool, Phil. I like that.
I totally appreciate that. I totally appreciate that response. And if anybody can match my grant, I'll double it.
I like this. Phil, what do you do private donations? Because I could use an extra bit. I'm just kidding. I'm not gonna do anything like that. But no, Phil, that's a great idea. That's very sweet of you to offer something like that. I hope something comes through.
I would love to meet you. You're a wonderful fellow. I will buy you a Conan's pizza.
Okay, maybe I can accept that. I don't know. But regardless, Phil, if you ever are in the Austin area, I am usually hosting. Actually, I'm hosting on Sunday this weekend. So all us ACA hosts are around and we're about. So, but don't feel like you have to buy me anything. That's I wouldn't like that. But Phil, thanks so much for calling in. I'm going to go ahead and let you go now. But it was a great topic.
You guys are the greatest. Thanks, Phil. Thank you for your time.
We appreciate it.
Thank you for that call. Thank you.
What a nice offer there. It's very generous.
Very generous.
But I like that. The ACA does does sponsor other activities, has done all kinds of stuff. I don't see why a scholarship could be out of the question. Now, of course, actually making a scholarship, right, and having it be like legally sound and having the right, that's work. And on our board of directors, they're all volunteers, right? It's being on a board at the ACA is not a paid position. So, I don't want to say, oh yeah, we're going to do this, cause that's their time. I don't want to volunteer other people's time, right? I want them to volunteer themselves. But, that is a cool idea. Definitely. And I could definitely see us doing something like that, but I don't know, Jmike, what do you think?
No, it was great. Yeah, I'm not as familiar with the chaplain stuff in terms of I didn't know about the Boy Scout stuff and all that. So that was really interesting. And so I had a buddy that was an Eagle Scout, and I don't really know what he is. I want to say he's agnostic, atheist or something. But he doesn't really talk about it much. I'm curious to talk to him about it and see if he kind of had a similar experience.
I know it's weird because half the Eagle Scouts I know are also atheists. I don't know if that's because I'm just in the community a lot, but I feel like when I find out somebody's an Eagle Scout, there's a 50-50 chance that they've also deconstructed.
You haven't seen what I've seen. You
right? I don't know what it means. I don't know what happens there, but yeah, it'll be interesting to see if the Boy Scouts are still a thing in 10 years. I'm not even sure if that's going to be the case, but that's a topic for another time.
Sure.
So we'll have to see. Just so you're aware, we are accepting super chats, as I read one earlier, so we will read them live on the air. As long as they're YouTube appropriate, we will make it happen. So that is one way you can support the show. You don't have to donate $1,000, but if you do, that's cool too. But I'm just saying, it doesn't have to be that high. Super chats, tend to be on the lower end of that. But another way you can support the show, of course, is by donating on the Patreon. As I mentioned before, that's tiny.cc/PatreonTW. It's a couple different donation tiers, and of course, everybody that donates does get a shout out at some point. They do become the patron of the week. And lastly, I just want to remind you guys, you can support the show by becoming a member as well. You get emojis in the chat. If you do that, your name gets highlighted and you're going to be immune to the slow mode. And you can do it for as little as how much per month? How much per month, Jmike? Do you know how much per month a member is? It's 99 cents.
I would say 99 cents. Sorry, I almost
99
said 199. Sorry.
It's not 199. It's not even 199. It's better than that. It's 99 cents. Take that. You go to the dollar store, Jmike, and you'd be like, you know what? I can do you one better. How about 99 cents? And that's it. So anyway, I don't know. There's probably taxes and stuff too. But regardless, there's a couple different ways you can support the ACA. And I want to let you guys know about it. So let's go back to the call-in studio here. I've got a couple good ones for you here, Jmike. I got some good ones for you. We're going to talk to Anonymous, who's calling in from the USA. Didn't want to give a state. That's cool. Anonymous, you are live on Truth Wanted. What's up?
Dan, Jmike, I am about to bring the sauce.
Yes.
I already love where this is going.
Fuck yes. That is what
I
give it to me.
What?
Give me the sauce.
I have the diggy ziggy-o.
Listen,
and I'm not talking about cannabis either.
look.
Lowdown. Do you want the lowdown, Dan? Do you want the lowdown, Jmike? Can you handle it? Can you handle the truth?
If every caller got me as hyped as you're getting me right now, I would host every single show, all the ACA programs. I would that would be just like, yeah. Give it to me. I have
information you'll continue for the rest of your life, Dan. You'll be looking for this. I have this. I'm sure what I have to tell you, you're just going to flip, because I saw when I was a kid, my father, for 2 summers, I went to visit my father, right, in Daytona Beach, Florida. And in his closet, he was a military man, ex-military man. In his closet, he had several different manuals from the CIA, NSA, and other various government organizations, like such as the White House and that kind of thing, and the federal and IRS and FBI, and that were secret manuals. He also had, get this is the sauce, an unredacted copy of Project Blue Book.
Wait. When you say an unredacted copy of Project Blue Book, because Project Blue Book, if I recall,
I'm just on the phone.
Is like the alien? Like you mean the actual alien like reports? And stuff?
It's like the 12,000 reports or whatever.
Okay.
Yeah.
Do you have it now?
No.
Why not?
My father and I got into. Well, it's an emotional thing, and
I got you. Okay.
Like
was your dad? Was he like?
It probably got sold in the garage sale.
Was he?
Isn't the only thing that's redacted just like the witness information? Isn't that like already brought out from the Freedom of Information Act? Like, isn't that public or not? I mean, I might just be ignorant on that, but isn't that the case? Like, I don't know, what would you have that would be different than what would be publicly available? Yeah.
Also, I don't think the thing about Project Blue Book too, right, is like, I don't think the conclusion ever was, oh yeah, aliens are real. I don't even think they really talk about UFOs all that much. I mean, like, they do talk about UFOs. It's supposed to be a systematic study of UFOs, right? Let's clear the air. Project Blue Book. If you're a weirdo like me, and you look at weird internet sites, Project Blue Book often comes up because it is a very famous project within the UFO community, because it was in the United States, it was the first systematic study of UFOs. It's not the first one ever, though. That actually belongs to a project that the UK started before that. But anyway,
well, Dan, and I'm kind of bummed out just a little bit, because Anonymous, you said you got the sauce, and I'm looking at my bun, and it's dry as hell right now.
Yeah,
man.
You know what?
You got the sauce on my bun.
You said your dad had a book when you were a kid, but like, what's up with that, man? What do we got? You know?
Yeah, I'm just not.
Check Come on. Those other manuals. Gave secret information on how phone companies and stuff like that ran their business.
Okay, like what?
Like different stuff on how and when, on what you say to the government officials that will make them hang up on you. Well, guys, I gotta go. Emergency.
Okay.
You find another book?
All right.
There's another closet. I gotta search that real quick.
Man, so listen. He brought the hype. Look, if you're gonna, I'll be honest. I'm a sucker.
I feel like I ordered for a burger with extra sauce, and I got it, and there's no sauce on my burger. That's what I feel like.
You can't just call into my show and say I got the sauce, and then leave me with that, man. Come on, I'm high and dry right now. I'm like the Radiohead song, and it's like it's not good. It's not a good feeling. I got blue balls, dude. I got blue balls by Project Blue
Balls. Yeah,
that's Project Blue Balls, dude. That's what this was.
Project
systematic study of how I got trolled, how I got dipped on me with the sauce.
He had the sauce and just left.
Bro,
none for you.
I'm sad. Jmike, give me something good out of that. What can we take away as a positive from this? Because I
thought Project Blue Balls was a good positive to take away from this.
Thank you. I'm kind of proud of that.
We're fitting our theme of the jokes too, so it's kind of like this nice circle back into the theme. So
yeah. Anyway, while we were talking about it, I brought up the Wikipedia because I was like, wait, isn't Project Blue Book everything from Project Blue Book is public? I thought.
Yeah.
And the Wikipedia here has it. A summary of the investigations. It says no UFOs were reported, investigated, and evaluated by the Air Force was ever an indication of threat to our national security. There was no evidence submitted to or discovered by the Air Force that sightings categorized as unidentified represented technological developments or principles beyond the range of modern scientific knowledge. And 3, there was no evidence indicating that sightings categorized as unidentified were extraterrestrial vehicles. So yeah, it was just like,
and if you look at the bottom there, it says that and this is what I was asking. I don't know if he's a troll or not, but I don't know anything about this project. But when I saw in there, it was made available with the Freedom of Information Act, right? And so presumably, I don't know if
this is what I presume
entails, but yeah,
this is what I presume is what he was going with, because a lot of people who are proponents that Project Blue Book is actually meaneful is that there was more to it and that it was hidden.
I see. Yeah, that's what I was assuming, and that's in the closet right now. Gotcha. Oh,
yes,
it all makes sense. Yep.
Yeah. So that's what that's about. But anyway,
very convenient.
Very convenient, isn't it? But like again, we talk about stuff on here like oh gosh, I'm tripping out on the name MK Ultra and stuff. Like MK Ultra is real. Like the government, was definitely drugging people without their consent and stuff. Sure. So I don't know. There's all kinds of
I get that, but people do the whole thing with like MK and all, or I don't know if it's MK or whichever CIA documents where they discovered astral projection and all this stuff. I'm like, I went through these CIA papers, and the conclusion in the papers is like that remote viewing is trash. Like it's like it's stated in the
okay, so that's a different thing. So they did some remote viewing studies in like the 80s. That's what you're talking about. There's another CIA document, Jmike, that talks about remote viewing that was released by public information request just a couple of years ago, but it was from like the early 2000s, I believe. Okay, and this is the one that a lot of people have been talking about again, because in that one they're like, oh no, this is legit actually, and this is totally real. Now it's speculation that maybe this is like a psyop, that maybe it's like get the Russians off our tail or whatever, but it's not. It's inconclusive as to what it actually means. But that's a different thing.
I mean, I feel like it'd be really easy. Like, I'll go play basketball. I won't tell you what I'm going to do. I'll go play basketball at the cul-de-sac. All right. And I'll just say astral project, remote view, whatever you do, and go tell me what I'm doing. Just tell me what I'm doing. Or I'll hide something in a room and you tell me where I hit it. Like,
the original
so easy. I don't get how this is difficult.
Because they did test it. They basically bought people into like a cement bunker, right? And they made them test stuff. And allegedly, so there was disagreement actually between the initial researchers, because some of them said that it was statistically significant. The results were statistically significant enough to be beyond random chance. And the other ones were like, no, this is bullshit. So there's actually, like, if you read the full report on what you're talking about, there's actually opinions from both of these researchers, right? You can obviously guess which one you and I would probably side with. But it is funny that, they did totally test it. Because we got to have our advantage. Imagine if it was real, though, and we had our advantage against the Ruskies through like remote viewing and stuff.
Crazy. Look, if it's the case that I can I don't know why I'd be I don't want anyone remote viewing on me, but I would, it's like, I'd like to be able to see more than out of my, somewhat crappy developed eyes with blind spots and whatnot. But hey, I'm not against it. I'm just all for, evidence.
With great power comes great responsibility, Jmike. And I wouldn't trust anybody with remote viewing, to be honest.
Good reason to hide it though, right? Government's just like, I don't want them looking at my butt when I'm showering. So
exactly. And that it always goes to that. It always goes to, wait, what if I'm naked? Right? Like, it's a legitimate concern. But we need to move
I was in the pool. I was in the pool, I swear.
I was in the pool. I read okay, sorry, I'm going on a tangent, but I read a thing that a lot of public pools before like the 1960s required you to be naked. Did you know this? Like at the YMCA, they had used to have a whole men's hours where dudes in the pool would just be naked. I just think that's weird. I don't know.
It's not my thing.
It's not my thing. Maybe it's not that weird in other countries and stuff, but I don't know, public nudity. That's the whole thing. Anyway, it's total tangent. See, this is why I like having Jmike on, because definitely he probably
I just intimidate everybody with my body. That's why I just keep the shirt on. I don't go to the nude beaches, and I just don't want to make anybody feel too bad.
What people don't realize is that beard actually, it keeps going beyond the face. It goes his whole body. It's not all the way down.
Plot twist. It's not where it starts, Dan. It's where it ends.
That's right. That's right. I just imagine there's hair coming out of the bottom of your pant legs. It's just all over you. That'd be awesome. Okay, we're going
really
way
off the deep end. Yeah.
Let's talk.
That's why I love doing shows with you, though, Dan.
Let's talk about this limited edition T-shirt that you can get. Okay, if the Earth really is flat, how does it wear its pants? This is a question that philosophy has yet to answer, and probably never will. But you can buy a shirt about it anyway. It's at tiny.cc/merchaca, along with all of our other shirts. We got the hoodies, we got the beanies, we got the cell phone cases, you got the tank tops. So if you want to get some merch, that's the way to do it. If you do, tag me on Twitter, because would love to see you wearing it. Also, if you want to hear our content in audio only form, please go to tiny.cc/AEN podcasts for all of the latest ACA shows in audio form. And that's my preferred method, because I am ADHD and I like having multiple stimulus happening. I got to have the podcasts on while I'm doing the dishes and feeding the cats or doing whatever, because a lot of stuff has to be happening in order for me to stay stimulated. Now, Jmike, let's get back to the calls. We have Daniel calling back in again from Canada. Daniel, you are live on Truth Wanted. What's going on?
Not much. I just wanted to, I thought I'd call in because I could have a good joke, a good alien joke.
Yes. Bring back the joke theme. Thank you, Daniel. Appreciate it. What do you got?
It's an old Saturday Night Live skit. It was, on the news, when they had the newscast, and it was with Bill Murray and Jane Curtin.
Yes.
They host the news, right?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And they had a guest. They had a guest psychic come on who predicts. Who said you could predict the next Time magazine cover, and the next Time magazine cover is going to be 4 words from an alien civilization that got the Voyager probe. Right? Remember the Voyager probe that we sent out?
Yes.
With the picture, disc, and all that. And he explains how on the disc it had a picture of man and woman, and it had directions how to get to Earth, and then it had sounds of Earth, animals and people, and music from Beethoven to Chuck Berry, and directions how to get here and all that, right?
Right. The golden disc, right? Carl Sagan likes talking about it because he was part of that. Yeah.
So he announces it's going to be just 4 words that they've sent back to Earth, and it's going to be on the Time magazine next week's cover. And the 4 words are, send more Chuck Berry.
That's good. What a timely joke that must have been when Chuck Berry was much more popular. But yes, I like that joke. Thank you for that.
Yeah, I hope everyone knows who Chuck Berry is. Chuck Berry's great.
Oh yeah, my favorite clip of Chuck Berry is with when Yoko Ono is on stage and making these crazy sounds, and as soon as it happens, Chuck Berry and John Lennon, they're both singing. Was it I don't know the song, but anyway, they're singing, and when she makes that noise, you just Chuck Berry looks like, what the hell was that?
I know what you're talking about.
The producer turns down all of her volume. It's like the most goated audio producer.
I have seen that clip. I've seen that clip.
Good.
That is amazing. Good. Yes. Okay, Daniel, thank you for listening to the rules and starting the call with a joke and not getting me too hyped up with the sauce. But I do want to know, Daniel, what do you have for us today? Because I know you're always bringing in good topics.
Well, I don't know. I just, I called you last week. I thought we had a great conversation with JL. And, yes. But I made a mistake when I said something, when I was trying to talk about why the alien truth behind the UFO phenomenon can't be revealed to us. I said something about, it was kind of a clumsy attempt to, I was saying if they gave us a device and could we be, that could power our home and whatever and do wonderful things for us, could we be trusted with it? What if we could turn it into a bomb or something? And
oh no!
Oh no, Daniel! No, come back to us.
Sounded like a cheek hit. I do it a lot. So
Daniel, I'm gonna bring you back to the queue. And the hosts, the crew. Sorry, the crew will let me know if you are ready again, and I'll talk with you, Jmike, for a second because we're kind of in the middle of a topic, and I'd like to continue talking with Daniel if we could. But while we are waiting on that, Daniel's called in before. Daniel has some interesting views. Jmike, Daniel believes that people are on Mars.
Well, why don't we talk about bricks?
Bricks? What about bricks?
Bricks.
What do you mean? Bricks? Bricks of what? Like bricks of cocaine?
No, never mind. Well, let's talk about a segment for bricks.
Oh, the bricks. Yeah, the bricks. Yeah, the bricks. Oh, that bricks. Yeah. Okay.
Bricks.
You said all you said was bricks.
I was trying to subtly do it, but
I understand. Yes. I should have. You just said bricks though, Jim. Like I was thinking.
Well, I'm looking over to my right, and I'm like, somebody's saying bricks, and so I'm just gonna say bricks as well.
Listen, okay, I need to give context because we have a chat here that communicates with us and the crew behind the scenes, and they just typed bricks, and I didn't know what that meant, and like that's just like a weird thing to say with like no other linking words.
That's so great. That explains a lot.
Human beings have developed language, guys. It's more than just single. Anyway, so let's get to our fundraiser, and we'll be right back. So let's show you how you can support.
I just see them.
Have you ever wanted to make a permanent impact on the atheist community of Austin? Help support our space for free thought by buying a custom engraved brick to be laid on the building grounds to help raise funds for improvements. Our building has stood as a beacon for years, bringing people together. But 3 years of emptiness due to the pandemic have taken a toll, leaving it in disrepair. Help us restore this hub of connection and support by buying a brick. Moses had his stone tablets, but we're doing our own version. Join our brick fundraiser and let your engraved messages stand the test of time, minus commandments. Visit tiny.cc/ACA bricks for more information.
It's funny because, Dan, I had the same kind of in my head. I'm like, I know what the bricks they are. I'm like, I can't think of a way to like elucidate this in any further way than just saying bricks.
I need to emphasize. I love our crew. Our crew is amazing, and they do a fantastic job. But they did just type bricks in the chat, and I didn't know what they meant. So I'm just that's not on me, guys. That's not on me.
But laugh.
And I never say we'll be right back. That's like a very TV thing. I feel like, and I just said that. That was like a weird moment for me.
We'll be right back.
We'll be right back. Right. It's very cheesy. Okay. So I got the word that we're good to go with Daniel again. Daniel, we're taking you back. You're live on the air again. Daniel, what's up?
No, I was just in the middle of saying what I said to JL about the aliens and giving us great things or whatever. What I was trying to get at was how I think like during the 70s and 80s, there was always a concern that some eccentric scientist or some whiz kid physicist who is crazy is going to develop a nuclear bomb or something. You know, we've always had that fear that some crazy person will do. And it was just a clumsy way of saying, you know, they wouldn't be able to trust us. But other than that, I have been doing a lot, though. There are a lot of good programs on. There are scientists who are taking the issue seriously. Like, have you heard of Gary Nolan from Stanford University School of Medicine, a professor?
Let me see. Gary Nolan. I might have to do a quick search. It doesn't immediately ring a bell. That doesn't mean I've never seen his stuff before. No, nothing comes to mind here.
Okay, well, I mean, you'd see him if you did a YouTube search. He's a legitimate.
Oh no, Daniel, come on! Oh, you there?
Yes, sir.
Go ahead. Okay.
Oh,
hello, Daniel. Daniel from Canada. Oh man, we are having some issues with Daniel from Canada, but we will put you again.
Oh, Jesus Christ!
Oh, there you are. Okay, I was literally just about to put you back in the queue. Wait, Daniel, are the aliens interfering with your connection right now? Is that what's happening? Are you about to spill some sauce and like our governments don't want us to know about it?
I hope it's okay. There was like it's like the noise I make when I fall if I fell down the stairs, like rah. So I was like, oh, it was okay.
Don't razz our callers, Jmike. Come on, that's that. Listen, talking on call-in shows is hard, and I get it. You know, you get flustered, you get mad, especially like when you're finally on the air, and then like you're trying to get to your point and stuff. But anyway, it sucks when you have technical difficulties, Daniel. Hopefully, we will be able to talk to you again. But for now, I am going to go ahead and take you away. I'm going to put you back in the queue here, and I'm going to talk to somebody else. And let's get to Kris. I have Kris, who is in our queue right now. Kris, you are live on Truth Wanted. What's up?
Can you hear me?
Yes, Kris in Michigan. How are you doing?
Okay. Yeah, I'm doing good. How are you?
Good. Welcome to the show. What can we talk to you about?
Well, I'm a friend of Kelly's, and I saw where he'd posted that he's looking for stories, and I have a ghost story for you.
Yes. Kelly doing the work today. Shout outs to Kelly Laughlin, who got a comment of the day today, and he's got a caller for us. So thank you, Kelly. Kris, tell us your ghost story.
Okay. I understand everybody on this channel is pretty much atheists.
Yes.
And so I believe you don't believe in ghosts. Is that correct?
Neither Jmike. I can't speak for Jmike, actually. Jmike, do you believe in ghosts?
I do not. I mean, atheism doesn't entail that like you couldn't believe in ghosts. You could. I mean, there's like people like Michael Humer, who's a professor. But he believes in soul. So there's.
Yeah,
but I don't believe in ghosts. So no,
neither of us believe in ghosts. Yeah, bottom line.
Yeah, okay, we won't go into that and why I have issues with that, but yeah.
That's my favorite topic.
No, actually, we would love that. Actually, that's also a legitimate
Mm-hmm.
conversation on this show. So don't feel like you can't talk about that.
Do that afterwards. Let me tell you my stories.
Okay, let's do that.
Okay, I don't want to waste your time like some of the other people on here. So I'm going to tell you this story started way back in the 60s. My brother was probably about 10, which made me about 5, give or take a few years. Anyway, it was back in the 60s. We were struggling, money was tight. Electric was expensive. So my father was very upset when any light was left on, and he got mad because my brother left the garage light, which unattached garage back on a farm. He left the light on. He says, get out there and shut it off. So my brother ran out there, and all of a sudden he came running back in, hysterical. He's like, oh my God, there's something in the garage. And my parents are kind of like laughing, like, what, a raccoon? He said, no, it was all humpy. It was all humped over. It was a guy. It was all humped over. And they're laughing. My dad goes out there. He comes back in. They're laughing at him. So my parents started joking around that he must have seen a ghost, and they nicknamed him Humpy. Okay.
Cool.
So many years later, many years later, my brother never talked about it again. I'm 15 years old. I'm with a best friend. We're sitting up late at night and we're drinking coffee and smoking cigarettes at the kitchen table. And we're writing a story about different events that had recently happened because we want to be publishers. All of a sudden, we heard kind of just a little creak, just a little noise. We both looked over from the actually dining room table, but it's open concept. And the door below the sink was just slightly ajar, about 2 inches, and out came, and it looked basically like fog or smoke, but you could definitely see features. It was hunched over. It went from the sink into where the pantry was. We both looked at each other and said, "Did you see what I saw? I don't know. What did you see?" We both started describing it to each other. We both saw the exact same thing. It was an old man hunched over, looked almost like a pirate because he had knickers on.
Okay.
Okay.
You had a pirate in your house.
Yeah. Well, no, he looked like a pirate because he had knickers on. He had short pants.
Okay.
Okay, so didn't think about it, nothing. About a year later, I'm at home. My parents are out on vacation. I'm minding the house, and I was talking to my friend. I talked to her like 6 times that night, and I had just hung up, and all of a sudden I see out of the corner of my eye, from one bedroom to the other, because it was like a hallway off the living room. Go from one bedroom to the other, the same hunched over man in knickers. I'm home alone. I'm way out in the country. This was back when you didn't have area codes, let alone the prefix. You just dialed the 4 digits and it was a party line. So I called my friend and the mother answers and says, "No, you can't talk to her again." So I'm hysterical. I stayed up the rest of the night. No other incidents.
Interesting.
Okay, so that was, so about 2 more years go by.
Yeah.
2, 3 more years. My brother brings home a friend from the service. He's in the service. He brings a guy home for a holiday. He didn't have any place, any family to go to. So, come on home with me on leave.
Okay.
Well, he got up in the morning. My mother she was a fabulous cook, made huge breakfast always. It was always important. My dad always said the best meal of the day is your breakfast. We couldn't go hunting. We couldn't do anything unless you ate your breakfast. Anyway, so my mom's got this big breakfast on the table, and Rex, his name was Rex Rose. And he came out of the bedroom and he says, "I had the weirdest dream." And we're like, "Okay, what?" He said, "I had this dream. I thought I woke up, but I couldn't have been awake because I saw the bottom drawer of the dresser open up and this guy in knickers got up and walked out and walked into the closet." And of course, we all burst out laughing. "It's Humpy!"
Oh, so this is interesting. So you have multiple accounts from independent parties who claim to have seen very similar phenomenon.
Same descriptions exactly. Over
So
multiple years. Even my brother to this day, we wonder, when did Humpy leave, or did we just quit seeing him?
So, Kris, let me ask you this. On a scale from 0 to 100, how confident are you, 0 being not confident at all, 100 being absolutely can't change my mind on this, confident that what you experienced was a ghost?
10,000.
10,000. That's pretty high.
Without a doubt. Like I said, it wasn't just me. It wasn't just my brother. There were other people involved.
That's pretty interesting. Jmike, what do you think?
It's really hard for me to challenge like personals, like people's personal experiences. I'm not there to investigate any of that. So like, I don't know, Kris. For all I know, well, just real quick, all I know is that real quick, Kris, because I don't know Kris. Kris could be lying. I have no idea. I don't think that you are, but that's a possibility. I have no idea. You could be telling the truth. You could have both seen something real and misidentified it. I'm not really sure how to like proceed with like investigating something that I wasn't a witness to. But
yeah,
I mean, the one thing I know I can kind of discuss with is like, theism and atheism and why I don't believe and why you possibly believe. But if someone says, look, I'm 100% convinced and there's no doubt, I don't know what I'm going to say that's going to change their mind.
Let's
and
talk about
I don't know
this.
if I have the place to even do that since I
Let's talk about this then.
So.
I want to know, like, Kris, if you didn't have this experience, this personal experience, right, would you still believe that ghosts were real? Or would you be more skeptical? Hello, Kris, you there?
Yeah.
Oop, Kris, I think you said something. Can't quite hear you. There you go. Okay.
I said that happened so long ago that at this point in my life, I could not answer that.
Okay.
It happened, and so therefore I have been a believer forever since I'm 50 years old, which was 50 years ago.
Yeah.
Well, not
that's a very spooky story. And if I had a personal experience in which I shared with you, which I couldn't identify what I was experiencing in any other terms other than this is a ghost, I could see how that would be hard to describe to other people. What stops me from being a believer in ghosts? One, to be totally clear, I've never had a paranormal experience like in my life, really, honestly, never really had it. So I can't speak to personal experience, but like conceptually, it's really hard for me to understand what a ghost like even is. So for example, you talked about like you could see that this ghost had like human features, and had like something that you could identify as being like an older person with like knickers on. I think that's really interesting. But like in order for us to like see things, right, we have to like have photons bounce off of stuff, go into our eyes, right? That if they're moving stuff, that presumably there's some sort of physical force happening. In other words, I don't know where like the physical realm and the spiritual realm sort of meet in that point of view, right? It seems like if it's interacting with the physical world in some way, it actually has to be a physical phenomenon. Otherwise, how am I even able to see it in the first place? Or like, is the ghost like, Earth is moving in space, right? Is the ghost affected by gravity? Is it like, attached to the Earth somehow? Like, or is it, would it be flying out? There's a lot of questions that I would have about that.
Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. Go ahead.
Okay, because you just kind of keep talking, and I want to just tell you, yes, I believe that, the other dimension is time. And maybe that person was trapped in time. I don't know. But I can tell you that when my parents, actually my grandmother purchased the property, it was bought from an old hermit that had just a shack on the property. And don't know what happened to him, don't know the story behind, don't know if he was dead then, whatever, but that's the story, that my grandmother purchased it from an old, that an old hermit had a shack on the property on the 80 acres. And who knows? It could have been him. I don't know.
Yeah. Jmike, further thoughts? What do you think?
I'd echo your sentiments. I've never had an experience like that myself. I think death is permanent. And that's just going to come from my background. It's impossible for me to investigate what you experienced, but one thing I'm iffy on is your confidence level in the belief, being so high, because it seems like you think you've exhausted like all these other candidate possible explanations. But like, I would just ask you, like, what kind of like independent work did you do or could you have done to try to verify?
I was 15 years old.
You were how old were you?
15. I was 15 years old.
15.
Not
yeah, I mean,
about anything.
Yeah, that's fair.
Yeah,
I mean, you're not exactly.
Fair. Yeah, I mean, I can't really challenge you on. I mean, I didn't really realize it was that young, but I mean, to me, that just throws things further into question that you have a developing mind.
Well,
you don't
like
really fully know how the world works, and then you go back and your memory starts to fill in a bunch of stuff over time. I mean,
No. Okay, no. You're talking out of your blowhole. No.
Okay.
It's something so significant. It's something so significant that it makes such an imprint that you never ever forget.
But isn't that? But Kris, isn't that consistent with misidentifying something, right? Isn't that consistent with thinking? So wait, hold on. You're saying that if I had an experience of a ghost and I was wrong, you're saying it still couldn't change my life and transform my life? Of course it could. My ignorance of thinking that it's a ghost when it's not would transform my life no more or less if it was actually a ghost, right?
Okay, it wouldn't have been that significant and that many.
It would have been because it's what you think is true. It's not there's an open question about whether or not it's actually true. Your view is just that you have an attitude that it is true. And I'm not trying to dismiss your experience. I've actually tried to walk. I've tried to walk over. Please let me finish. Please let me finish. I've tried to actually walk over that as respectfully as I can. So I really don't appreciate your comments. I'm trying to explain to you that if your epistemology or how you know things is so low to the point where you think significance equals that it's more likely to be true, that's just false, right? I mean, I can think something is true and it have immense amount of significance to me, and I can just be wrong. There's a lot of people, I call them Christians, right? There's a lot of people that have significant events that happen in their life, and in my opinion, they're just wrong, right? So I don't see, like, this isn't, and you would say the same thing about a Muslim or anybody else, that they have significant experiences, but they're not having experiences from Allah, right? So, I mean, it just seems like you would already agree with me that significance here does nothing to establish whether or not it's true or false.
I understand where you're coming from. And like I said, my brother and I have discussed this with our experiences over the years. And there is no doubt in either one of our minds of what we both, and he did not describe to me until much, much later. All he described it was somebody humpy. Well, he was hunched over, almost like, he was walking on a cane or something. That's why talking to these people that experienced it, that made it more concrete, more believable, because we all experienced the same thing at different points, saw the same thing.
Do you think it's possible? Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you, but do you think it's possible, like, if we're talking about phenomenon like what you experienced, could that be recorded in other ways besides people interacting with it? For example, do you think it's possible that a ghost could be caught on camera or something to that effect?
Not a camera with good quality, evidently.
Well, yeah, sure. But do you think there's other ways?
Actually, it's just that ghosts are blurry. It's like Bigfoot. It's like they're just blurry.
Yeah,
right? Bigfoot is blurry. That's the problem, right?
Yeah, he's just a blurry guy. But also, like, I'm just like curious as to your worldview as the ghosts are concerned, right? Do you think that they could be captured in other ways besides the human experience?
Okay, I know there's a lot of shows out there. I don't believe any of them. I really don't.
Okay.
I believe there's something that probably could, but I couldn't tell you what it is. But as far as these ghost shows on TV and this and that, I call most of them 99.9% false.
I'd say 100%, because why would we have a new season of a ghost show if we never act like welcome back to season 52 of Never Finding a Ghost. We'll be right back with season 52 of Never Finding a Ghost.
Yeah, but so Kris, do you think a ghost could it potentially be caught on camera? Do you think?
Truly, I don't think so. Not the cameras that we have now.
Okay. So why do you think human beings are able? Why do you think human beings are able to see ghosts but not cameras?
Because they come into our time. They come into our realm, and they allow us to glimpse them. But as far as anything mechanical, I don't think so.
No.
I don't know why I feel that way.
Okay.
But I just do.
I'm just curious.
I can also, tell you that animals are more sensitive. Children are more sensitive.
What?
Yeah.
I can also tell you, I'm not going to go into the story, but
wait, how do you? Hold on, I'm sorry. How do you know that?
Yeah, that is a good question. How do we know that children are more sensitive?
I hear people. I know, but I hear people say this. Like, I just watched like a TikTok video of this like mom who was like filming her son talking to somebody in a room, and she's like, "Oh, they can detect." No, he's a kid. He's a kid.
Yeah,
he has an underdeveloped brain. His brain isn't developed. What are you talking about? He isn't talk. That requires demonstration. Like, I can't sit back and have something like, "Oh, they know this because dogs sense it." No, they don't. Prove it. That's an empirical claim.
You have to admit, when you're younger, you learn most of your stuff. I'm going to go out on a limb here. By the time you're 10, I mean, yes, there is other college and academics and this and that, but so much instinct and survival experiences. And how can a 2-year-old all of a sudden be playing Beethoven?
Wait, I don't think 2-year-olds play Beethoven. What do you mean?
Well, I think she's talking like
never met a 2-year-old that has played Beethoven. Kris, have you met 2-year-olds playing Beethoven?
Maybe there might be a savant out there. You never know.
Yeah.
I can't remember his name, but yeah, there is. If you Google it, maybe he was 4. But
I'm sorry. I don't mean to be facetious, but I really don't know what the point of that is. Right? Okay, a 2-year-old can play Beethoven. What does it have to do with seeing ghosts?
Reincarnation.
How do you know that?
What?
How do you know reincarnation's a thing?
I'm a total believer in reincarnation. I don't think
I get that's what you believe, but what what gives you reason to think that that's true?
Well, like I said, if you Google child prodigies.
So
I Google child prodigy. I'm gonna.
Well, Kris, could it be possible that can child prodigies exist? Kris, real quick, I'm so sorry. I don't mean there's a little bit of a delay between the call, so I know it kind of makes it a little difficult to have a conversation, and I apologize for that. There's not really a whole lot we can do. But can child prodigies exist and also reincarnation not be real? Like, is that a possibility?
I don't think so.
Why not?
I don't think so, because you learn so much younger. The more you are, the more you absorb, the more you learn. Okay. And it's a learned instinct. So somebody that comes out that is so young, that hasn't been exposed to those things, that all of a sudden they can do, where did it come from?
Well, that's just an argument from ignorance. If you don't know where it come from, you don't slap the random like label of like supernatural or whatever, right? Like that. Like, I mean, because presumably I could just take the same form of reasoning and then for X substitute out anything I want for it. And why would that be justification? I don't get it.
Just do a quick Google search on 4-year-old. I don't know.
Like, I've talked to people's parents. They all think their kids are prodigies, and maybe they are, right? No. So it's fine. Like I think Dan's question was what needs to be answered, or at least what needs to be pointed out, is that there's nothing inconsistent with the conjunction of there's a child prodigy and like no supernatural stuff or no reincarnation like that. There's no like contradiction entailed by that. There's nothing there. So like when you say you don't think so, I'm just going to ask, why do you think that? I mean, and if you just say, well, just do a quick Google search, like, I mean, what am I supposed to Google this and then all of a sudden it's like irrefutable? I'm going to have to accept reincarnation? Because I've had these debates for a long time and I've done a lot of Googling on it and I've never once thought, oh, those words on a page now make me think it's true. Like,
okay, he's a 4-year-old kid playing Beethoven. I'm trying to get his name.
I'm assuming he can, like, you know, whether it's he hears it and maybe he has a very good understanding of the piano keys, or he's reading sheet music, you know, regardless, like, what does this have to do with reincarnation? That's what we're getting at, right? A 4-year-old is really good at playing the piano. Why does that mean that he's reincarnated? Why can't he just be really good at playing the piano?
Well, that's a good point. But what I believe, it's not just he learned it in 4 years. His name is Johann.
No, we're granting that it's a thing. That's fine. But if you say that's a good point that Dan just made, then what else is there for you to think, right? What weighs that out? You have the scale and you're like, okay, that's a good point, Dan. It's weighing out the scales a little bit where I can see your view. What makes yours go up a little bit more? Like, why do you think that that's, I don't understanding. Like, why do you think, if that's a good point, like what's missing in Dan's kind of analysis that has to be added to this, the thing that you think is true?
Well, if you look, Johann George Cutty, Yohann George.
I'm fine. I'm granted. Yeah, I grant it. We have a really smart child who play piano. Great. Why is that reincarnation? Who was he reincarnated from? How could we tell? What methodology could we use to show?
For example,
could we falsify it? Right. These are all questions that need to be answered.
Yeah, let's use a different example, right? Let's say I believe I'm looking at this kid, right, Kris, and I'm saying, you know what? That is evidence that aliens are beaming knowledge into children, right, and giving them those powers. Okay, could be. What makes reincarnation more likely, or is it more likely? Can we evaluate whether one is more likely than the other?
You know, it's just it is my belief.
Sure.
I'm not against that there's alien influence in things. I think all things are possible. If you can imagine it, it can happen. We only use about 10% of our brain. And if we could prove everything, I don't think we'd want that knowledge.
Maybe not, but I do think that there are some things we can prove, or at least some things we can demonstrate, right? Like you're right. We live in a world where we're limited. We're limited beings. We have to rely on other people for knowledge. We have to rely on all sorts of systems and mechanisms in order for us to get along with our day, right? Because that's just how we operate. Yeah. So I want to try to believe in what's most reliable, what's going to reliably demonstrate for me to be true, right? Like I think if I study physics, I think I'm going to be able to understand the principles of how a car works, because I think that's the output that a knowledge of physics could get me, right? But when it comes to beliefs about reincarnation or aliens beaming into children and giving us powers, right? Maybe there are ways we could look at empirically how that might work. And maybe we haven't found any yet. Or if we haven't, it makes me wonder, why should I have one belief and value that more than another? Why can't I just say, I don't know? Or maybe there isn't a reason, right?
Okay.
Because as soon as I pick a reason, as soon as I say, oh, it's reincarnation, then what's the point, right? How do we understand what is true anymore? Sorry, I'm going on a little bit of a talk there. Go ahead.
Okay, couple things there. First of all, my brother is total physics geek. Okay.
Yeah.
We're not even going to go into that. Okay. Second point. Okay, what you were talking something about knowing everything, proving everything. I think someday we will reach that level of being able to prove.
Sorry, Kris, I don't mean to interrupt you. That wasn't exactly what I was saying. It was more just like, look, I have limited time on my hands, right? I can't go out and prove everything. I can't go and prove, that nuclear, I don't know. I was going to make some weird analogy there, but we don't even have to go that far. There's a lot of things I don't know about how the world works. I have to rely on methods or rely on experts who are using methods to like know how things work, right? So if we don't have a good method of knowing why young kids have good skills, why should we choose one belief over another? Like, why should we choose reincarnation over maybe a kid just has a brain that's wired differently, right? Because I'm more willing to believe in the kid being wired differently because I think that there's at least some empirical evidence for that, right? I think that there's some ways we can get to that.
And it would be strange when you live in a world where there are all of these statistical probabilities, and some of those statistic probabilities are like, they're improbable. They're not likely to occur, right?
Yeah.
And what would be really strange in the world is if you didn't find those improbabilities occurring at the rate they do, or if you never find them at all, right? And so it's expected upon, my opinion, a naturalistic hypothesis, that you would find very rarely, but you would find them, these 2-year-olds with some cognitive ability to understand whatever, or play whatever, or the ability to do whatever. You're expected to find that. And it would be a miracle, or to me, it'd be like evidence of something supernatural if we never had anything like that. Or if these improbabilities all of a sudden randomly just started happening all the time. Right. Yeah. That'd be a cause for concern for me. But just pointing out like, hey, there's this improbable event, like that is entirely consistent with just a naturalistic worldview. That's like, in fact, that's the expectation upon the hypothesis.
Hold on. Okay. I know you got a podcast here and you're paid to talk, but before
we're not paid any money. So I don't know what you're talking about.
We
do this for fun. I do this for free.
Yeah, just FYI.
Whatever. Okay. Whatever. Okay, let me ask you this question. Do you believe in love?
Sure.
Yeah. I believe in love.
Okay.
Do you
really? Does your mother love you?
Yeah.
Yes.
How do you know that?
Because I have background information on what's indicative of human love and what's consistent and inconsistent with that. And that's going to be like even further narrowed down with certain people.
In other words, she raised me, she fed me, she clothed me, she bathed me, she did all the things that a loving mother
didn't throw me off a building and get rid of me. It's pretty easy to decipher.
That is your concept of love.
That's just that's partial.
Well, part of it, yeah. It's one aspect of it.
If you thought we just would exhaust love in 15 seconds, then you got some thinking to do yourself.
You're both single, aren't you?
No, I live with my girlfriend actually.
I don't know why my personal life matters to your. I don't know why my personal life matters to your unsubstantiated claims.
Do you love her? This is a point. This is a good point of discussion.
Let her cook, Jmike. Let her cook. I do love my girlfriend.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. How do you know you love her?
How do I know I love her? Well, I feel differently about her than I do other people. And I do things for her that I wouldn't do for other people.
Okay. So can that be analyzed scientifically and proven?
Yes. 100%.
How?
We know the chemical compounds.
Well, because you can analyze my life, right? What is empiricism? Empiricism is scientifically, right? It's making observations, right? And coming up with hypotheses about what you would expect if a certain condition's met, right? Yeah. So listen to this, Kris. Listen to this. If you expected that I loved my girlfriend, what would you expect? What's your hypothesis? What would you expect to see? If it was true that I love my girlfriend.
I would hope you would love her unconditional and do anything, even risk your life for her.
Okay. So if I did those things, if I risked my life for her one time and I showed that I was loving her unconditionally, would you believe that I loved her? if I did those things? Okay, that's a scientific understanding of love. You're taking observations and you have a hypothesis and you match up with that hypothesis. That's the method in action.
And it's the same thing with reincarnation.
But that's literally what I just challenged. I literally said what was expected on the naturalistic hypothesis is this.
Let's think about this. If it was true that reincarnation was real, wouldn't we have way more kids that could do instruments? How many people can play instruments, right? Millions of people. Why aren't more 4-year-olds playing instruments?
Especially if that's the criteria that's sufficient for you to believe in reincarnation, is like little kids playing instruments very well or something.
Not everybody chooses to be reincarnated.
Oh,
there's a choice involved. Okay,
it's extra here. So, how many musicians do you think are reincarnated?
What did you go? I was just curious. I'm sorry, Dan. Not everyone chooses. Did you watch the deliberation process after like people's death? Like, I'm sorry, but like the amount of hubris that you have on this view is kind of annoying to me. I'm not gonna lie, because like look, I'm sure you're a nice guy. I'm sure you're a nice gal. You gave no pronouns. So I don't want to straw man your pronouns. So I'm sure you're a nice person, right? Real quick. I'm sure you're a nice person, right? And Dan's being nice, but what I don't appreciate. What I really don't appreciate is people like walking around with this head on their shoulder, like they know the fundamental nature of reality. Do you know how arrogant that is? Do you know how absolutely arrogant that is, that you think you figured out the secret of life? That's what you think. You think you figured out the secret of life. That is so much hubris. And you haven't even given any justification for it. You've just talked about what you believe the whole time. That's it. That's all you've done.
No, I have not figured out all of life, but I know what makes me happy.
You know the secrets of it, apparently.
Pardon?
You know the secrets to life, things that we can't peer behind. You were there and you watched people deliberate on whether or not they wanted to be a dung beetle or not, right?
Oh, that's so weird. I don't even know how to respond to that.
It's your view. You're the one who thinks that you know that people choose to be reincarnated. And the question is, in virtue of what do you know that to be true? It's a ridiculous claim. You should have never made it.
No, you're right. You're right. I should not have even brought that up here. It's my belief. We were talking about ghosts. That's where it came from. And I wanted you to tell me, how can science prove love? If somebody loves, it's a feeling.
Feelings have chemical components, right? So like I take antidepressants and that affects my mood, right? That affects how I feel. That's a purely physical process, right? I'm taking a pill and it's affecting my body. And love, when people experience love, they release certain hormones, for example, right? There's different chemical changes happening in the body, right?
Yes.
So I mean, that's open to science, is it not? That's open to empiricism. That's open to people,
Everything is open to science.
Yeah. Well, not everything, but a lot of things. So yeah, I think science. But you asked, your question was, how can love be analyzed by science? And that's my answer, right?
Okay. Well, what? Okay, you brought up the science thing. You said almost everything. So what isn't? I challenge you. What isn't?
Oh, what isn't observable by science? Well, that's an interesting question.
Yeah.
Anything that can't be observed, right, isn't accessible by science. So, for example, Kris, if you said that there is an invisible, can't be perceived, can't be analyzed being out in another dimension that isn't accessible to ours and whatsoever, right? That can't be analyzed by science, right? Because science only works with what we can see and what we can observe and what we can perceive. So that's an example, like a hypothetical being outside of space and time, right? Some people say that's what God is, right? And if that's what God is, then he can't be open to science. So that's an example.
At this moment, we can't do those things. But you don't think in the future we could?
If we could, then it would be open to science. Because science, again takes in what we observe, right? So
1890. Do you think they would have been thought it even possible that you and I are talking right now on a cell phone?
Yeah, probably not. I mean, maybe some people, but like, yeah, but I think that what we're doing is open to science as well, right?
Yeah.
Like,
okay. First of all, I want to tell you this joke. Yabbits live in the woods.
okay, I don't know what that means.
Yabbits, rabbits, yabbits. So don't say yabbit, yabbit, yabbut.
Are you correcting my speech right now?
Yeah, I was.
Oh, okay. Well, Kris, maybe I don't have English as my first language, or maybe I come from a part of the country that speaks differently. I don't know why you feel the need to correct the way that I talk, but
sorry,
honestly, I think we should probably wrap up this conversation.
And it's because you got to watch your you got to watch your blow. You're just talking at your blowhole.
I guess so. I guess so. Kris, it was genuinely interesting talking to you. I'm actually very glad that you called in. I'm glad Kelly convinced you to call in. I don't know what your relationship with Kelly's going to be like after this, but
I'm going to be reincarnated as a blowhole. That's what I learned from this conversation.
Yeah, but we are at the end of our show here, Kris. We do have to let you go, so I am going to go ahead and drop you here. But thanks so much for calling in, yeah, done with that conversation. Jmike.
I just find
reincarnation real.
I find beliefs. I get really more pissy at that stuff because I believed in reincarnation at one point.
Dude,
and
you were going off.
It's such an arrogant belief to have. It really is. Like, look, you
just got so mad.
Well, yeah, because look, if someone's like, well, why do you hold to naturalism and think that there's only naturalism? Well, I can only give you, I can give you justification, but I will always preface, this might not be convincing to you. I have my reasons, and it's usually just gonna be a trade-off of comparing the data, which has less commitments and explains all the data. And I think naturalism always wins that battle of that comparing those theoretical virtues, simplicity versus explanation. And so I can give the justification. If someone is like, I believe in reincarnation, and they go, because I think it's a simpler hypothesis, explains all the data really well, and naturalism is committed to more, and it's unnecessarily, that would be good reason to justify. But it's not like you hear any, like, some like kind of humble approach at it. It's like, no, I know that there's a choice between, someone why do you know that? How do you know that? It's like, did you ever once think, how do I know this? So I'm not going to claim my position as full proof. I'm just going to claim, look, I have justification for what I think is true.
As people, particularly Americans, I think it's a very American way of thinking. That might be just a bias on my part, but I feel like our culture in particular, we don't ask those kinds of questions, right? You get to have a belief, and it gets to be your unique, special belief. And if anybody questions that, you're a big meanie head, and it's your thing because nobody gets to touch it. But it's like there are some beliefs that are actually open to conversation, if not other methods of analysis, right? And like a reincarnation belief is totally, like, I mean, not completely, but it is lookable by science in some way, right?
It's just this whole people choose to, like, that thing sets me off. It's like, what?
Yeah.
You were there, like, I don't have a problem with reincarnation. That part is just like, what are you talking about?
It's like, how do you know that they chose? Did they tell you that they chose?
Yeah.
Like, what happens there? I didn't choose this life, Jmike. This life chose me. You know what I'm saying?
If we chose, there would be very few dung beetles. And since the world is full of a lot of beetles and a lot of really crappy things that people wouldn't choose, if it actually came down to choice, we could falsify this hypothesis, I think, or have a good case, because most people would just go, nah, I'm good. And there wouldn't be beetles and crazy.
If you're
bugs.
already an ant, you're probably like enjoying it though. Like you probably don't want more out of life, because then like desires come into it, right? If you're a different person, don't you have different desires? And your choices are going to be different. I don't know.
The whole thing screws me. Yeah, the whole thing screws me up.
Listen, folks, if you like this conversation and you want to hear it from us more, we are going to be on the Atheist Community of Austin Discord, the ACD Discord, fan-run Discord server, tiny.cc/ACD Discord. We're going to go in there in just a second. Okay, so check that out, and we will continue things from there. But we do need to start getting things going here. Jmike, you have been a fantastic guest. Thanks so
Thank
much
you.
for being on. Where can people find you at if they want to know more?
AXP, Talk Heathen, Truth Wanted. You can go back in the archive, Nonprofits. There's an episode or two with me if you're interested there. So yeah, or I hang out on TikTok sometimes and do some debates with people and whatnot. So that's where you can find me. If you really want to watch those, then TikTok is probably the best way to do that.
Absolutely.
Also follow the ACA TikTok because I'm going to start going live there as well. As I kind of got back into doing my own lives rather than joining like a Christian live and debating, and just being like, ooh, they said something that I really want to kind of.
Are you going to go live this Sunday? Is that going to be you?
I'm not doing it. I don't think I'm doing AXP this Sunday, but I'm.
You're not.
I am planning on going live sooner than later.
You want to know how I know this? Because I'm going to be on AXP this Sunday and Talk Heathen live in the studio. Yes. So if you're in the Austin area, come on down. Doors open at 12. Should be a good time. We have Blind Lime. He's actually going to be joining me as co-host. And we have a brand new host that is joining us on Atheist Experience with me, Sophia. So it's going to be really, really awesome. Looking forward to that. Also, real quick, got to let you guys know, if you want to contact the show, it's truth@atheist-community.org. Tell me why reincarnation is real, and also whatever else you want to say, I guess. And if you also want to talk about why you think reincarnation is real, you can do that at the Facebook group. There is a fan-run Facebook group for Truth Wanted fans. So check it out. Link to that is going to be in the description. tiny.cc/FBTWG. We have to thank the wonderful, fantastic, stupendous crew, Jmike, that helped make this show happen every single week. We're going to get to that crew cam in just a second. Whenever they want to. There they go.
There we go.
Look at that wonderful crew, Jmike.
It's really actually in the field right now. You just don't know.
They are in the field. One of them is in a field, and that is inexplicable. So therefore, reincarnation is real.
Dan.
Yeah.
Sorry, I just in my right side of my eye saw a new super chat.
Yes, I was just like, about to read it.
The only reason I said that is because I love it. I just wanted to point it out.
You get
not trying to tell you how to do your job or nothing, but I saw it and I was like, Twinkle Toes, that's the best. Twinkle Toes sends in, was it €5 for bricks and sauce?
Yes,
bricks and sauce.
Sums it up.
Bricks. I love it.
That's the show, Sauce and Bricks.
Sauce and Bricks.
Just title this episode "Sauce and Bricks," please. No other explanation. I would love that. Crew is not going to listen to me, but that would be great. We also have another super chat from Ben9.
Sauce wanted.
Ben9, who says, who gives $4.99 and says, "Thanks, Dan, Jmike, and all the volunteers behind the scenes that make this interesting and entertaining." Yes, thank you so much for donating. You are the real ones. And I also have to thank our backup host, Kelly. Kelly's actually here as backup host.
Yes,
which is great, Kelly.
I got to meet Kelly in Austin, and it was Kelly's awesome. Kelly's really cool.
Kelly's a cool guy.
Kelly's really cool.
Everybody loves Kelly around these parts. We have a saying around these parts. It's everybody loves Kelly.
I see why. I completely get it.
Okay, so before we get going here, just want to reiterate, our We Want the Truth segment this week is wrong answers only. What does the J in Jmike actually stand for? And I'm expecting your best, folks. Comment below in the video, and you might get read next week for our top 3 answers. But that is going to be it for tonight. I have been your host, Objectively Dan. I've been joined by Jmike. Before we go, Jmike, words of wisdom. Do you have any words of wisdom for today?
I mean, the only thing I could think of is I've been kind of on the whole like meaning thing and people having this universal meaning, and I don't know, it doesn't really good words of wisdom, but I guess I just want to say I don't really give a shit what some galaxy far away ever knows anything that I'm doing or anything like that. Friends, family, some of my friends that are watching, Dan, Johnny, Kelly, people in the ACA, people that watch the show, I get so much meaning and joy out of this, and I don't care if, no one ever knows who I am 1,000 years from now, or if there's a galaxy of people that know. It's what matters is the gift you get from other people, and you guys have all given me a really good gift, and that doesn't need anything extrinsic. And so I love you guys, and I love the fans that watch. So I guess I just want to give my love out. I guess.
What a beautiful impromptu speech, Jmike.
Thank you,
Jonathan Michael.
You figured it out, damn it.
Thanks, Jmike, and thank you to everybody watching at home. You guys rock. But that is going to be it for this week's episode of Truth Wanted. I'm Objectively Dan, and I'll see you next time.
Watch The Non-Prophets and join the hosts in the live chat. Visit tiny.cc/YTNP.